You look amazing.
Oh, you think?
Oh, are you going out somewhere?
It's my night off. I'm meeting some friends.
Oh, lovely.
You coming?
Oh, I wish I could, but I've got to meet Mum.
Oh, well, maybe next time.
Yeah, maybe. Are you meeting Simeon?
Oh, I don't know.
What's wrong?
I think he likes me.
Well, of course he likes you. He wouldn't spend so much time around you if he didn't like you.
I keep waiting for him to make the first move.
Ugh, I know that feeling.
Why does it always have to be the men?
Well, there are ways.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't think that Boaz would have actually got round to asking me to marry him if I hadn't...
You? You never did.
Like I said, you just have to find the right way.
What did you do?
Ugh, it's a secret, really. It was Mum's idea.
What? You have to tell me now.
You can't tell anyone, promise.
Promise.
It's a funny word, Mum, actually, isn't it?
Funny.
Well, when Orpah and I first got married to our husbands, they were still living in the family home, so of course we went to go and live with them.
Of course.
And you don't really know what to call your husband's parents, so we ended up just calling her Mum, like they did. But I don't think she actually ever saw us as her daughters. I mean, even when we moved together to Bethlehem, she still just didn't seem to pay much attention. Until actually I started doing quite well with Boaz in the field, and I was able to get enough grain for the both of us, and it seemed to pull her out of her depression. And that, I think, is when she actually started thinking of me as her daughter. And, like any good mother would, she wanted to secure my future by getting me married.
Tell me about it, mothers.
Well, Boaz actually turned out to be a relative of my husband. I mean, not close enough for him to marry me as the law says, but close enough to have some sort of responsibility for me. And Mum could see that he liked me, but I mean, the whole summer went with me gathering grain with the rest of you girls, and he still hadn't made a move.
Don't tell me. She decided to do something about it.
Oh, yes, she told me to bathe in oils, put on my finest clothes and my best makeup.
I've tried all of that.
Well, it got to the end of the harvest and Boaz was working miles away from the village, and he decided to stay in this barn close to where he was working. I mean, you know how tiring it gets in the harvest.
Tell me about it.
Anyway, he'd had something to eat and to drink, and by the end of that he was dead to the world. And after he had fallen asleep, I snuck into the barn, took his cloak from off his feet and laid down next to him.
You never.
I did.
Well, go on.
Anyway, in the middle of the night, he suddenly woke up. You should have seen the look on his face. He leapt up, gathered his cloak around him. I mean, I can't imagine what he must have been thinking, suddenly waking up to find a woman lying at his feet.
What did you do?
Well, you know that tradition in wedding ceremonies where the groom wraps his cloak around the woman to show that she's now under his protection? Well, I went up to him, took his cloak, put it around myself and said, "I am your servant, Ruth. Put your cloak around my shoulders, for you are my relative."
Just like that.
Just like that.
I mean, that is a marriage proposal if ever I heard one.
I mean, it was a big risk. Can you imagine what people would have said if they'd found out I had been lying down with a man who wasn't my husband?
No self-respecting man would marry you after that.
Exactly. But on the other hand, Boaz could have just as easily pretended like none of it had ever happened.
But he didn't.
No, he was really good about it. And he even made sure that no one would find out that it had happened.
And he agreed to marry you.
Well, not instantly. He said that there was another person, another relative, who was closer to me that might have some more responsibility for me, and he had to ask their permission first.
I don't think I could do that to Simeon.
No, and you shouldn't.
Why not?
Well, just because it was the right way for me doesn't mean it's the right way for you. I mean, you and Simeon are both still young. I was a foreign widow. I had nothing to lose and everything to gain. And besides, Boaz and I knew that we hadn't done anything wrong, but not everyone's like Boaz.
True.
You know, we women always think it's hard on us not being able to ask the man, but I can't actually imagine how difficult it must be for a man, having to ask and not knowing if you're going to be accepted.
You think?
Well, I mean, Simeon will pluck up the courage eventually, but just let him know that when he does ask, you're going to say yes.
This other relative of Boaz, he must have refused to marry you.
Well, that is a story for another day. Anyway, I've got to go and meet Mum.